for coming today. This is, like I said, a very informal parent just check in to see how things are going. I have a couple things I'd like to share with you, a conversation. I'd love to hear some feedback on potential reopening ideas. But other than that, this is your time to ask questions and check in. I want to remind you that I am recording this. And so you have your children's names or very specifics, we might want to wait till the end for that piece of it, and I can stop the recording so we can have that conversation. So I'm Nanette Donahue, principal at Britton, and Nancy Altman is right next to me, on my screen at least, and she is an assistant principal here, and she does pretty much everything. She's a masterful at multitasking and getting a lot done. So we love having her. And I think we make a pretty good team, Nancy. We complement each other well. So we are going to start today. I just want to give you a couple updates. Today is the last day of the first quarter. So if any children have a D or an F or multiple D's or F's, you will be receiving a paper copy through the mail of the progress report, the quarterly report. If your child does not have any D's or F's, we'll be sending you an email asking you to check out the grades on Aries. The other thing that I just wanted to remind you of is you are able to go into Aries and set your preferences so you get updates emailed to you how your children are doing, the grades that they have. So I encourage you, if you don't have that set up, definitely try to get that set up. Sherry Valcarcel is going to send an email out with instructions on how to do that if that's something you need. So that's an important piece. We have noticed that we've had a larger amount of students with D's and F's this year than we have in the past. I think it's multi-layered. I think part of it is learning how to get on and learn in this virtual world and submit assignments. Part of it is learning from home is just a different set of responsibilities for children, and then also. It's also a learning curve for us on our side as well. Working hard to try to adjust some of the practices when needed to make sure that we're meeting our kids' needs better than each day that we're here, make it better. So that's just something that I wanted to just give you a heads up about. We can certainly talk about it more in a little while. Also, I wanted to let you know that a 7th grader or an 8th grader, and if they have Mr. Stock's elective, Miss Watt, not Spanish, but her other elective, Miss, let's see, there's a couple others, Miss Yen's elective.
And Miss Winchell.
Miss Winchell's elective. They will be shifting to another teacher for the 2nd quarter of elective, and then they will switch back to their original teacher for the 3rd quarter and shift back to the 2nd teacher, the 4th quarter. So we're going to just volley them back and forth. So they'll have one teacher through today, a new teacher through December, for their first teacher again in January, our 2nd teacher again in that March timeframe. So we'll just go back and forth. So just make sure your kids are checking their Aries on Monday to see if their teacher has changed for their elective. We're doing that just so we can go back and forth and have them have different experiences and jump back and forth in that way. And then, so those are the main things. I do want to have a discussion about returning to school, which I would love to hear your feedback and your insights, your thoughts and concerns. And, but before we do that, I also, we have our Home and School Club president here, and I'm assuming we have, looks like we have everyone here from Home and School Club so far. We've got Teresa Peschke is our president, and she's actually she's the one with the overalls right here on our video. And Jordan Rosenfeld is our secretary, and Sophia Maksud is our treasurer. And so, hi Jordan, it's good to see you. And so we will have a chance for them to check in as well. So the overall of everything I have for you today, but really, like I said, this is an informal check-in. So the first thing I would like to do, though, is just kind of share with you that the board has made a decision that we will not be returning, we will not consider bringing all of the students back to school at least until January 2021, which is in a couple months from now. That'll be the first time where we consider the option of bringing students back. It doesn't mean we will. It means that's when we will look at it to see what we think and how safe it is, and do we feel like we have everything in place in order to do that. We are looking at the option of possibly bringing smaller groups of students back earlier to do some learning on site. Students who are having connectivity issues, who are really struggling at the at-home environment. We're looking at pieces like that. That's not getting pushed out just yet, but that seems like that's a little bit more in the works to happen sooner rather than later, which I'm personally celebrating because I know we have some kids who just really need that level of support. Others are doing really well at home right now. So that we've kind of got the ones who are doing really well and the ones who are really not doing well at home. And we recognize we have both camps. And so we're trying to figure that out as a district. But in January, we will look into whether or not we are able to reconvene in a hybrid type situation on the school campuses. So we've been asked to get your feedback as our community on what you think about that. What are your concerns? What are your feelings about possibly back to school? You know, what thoughts, concerns, questions might you have? And I would love to just hear from you on this discussion. So I'm thinking, how many people do we have on here? We've got 30. So maybe if you could raise your hand, if you know how to do that, you would do that by going to, is it chat or is it
reaction?
So I think if you go to your if you go to your, click on your participants, you can raise your hand from there. There's a way to raise your hand, or you can just unmute yourself and I can see that you're unmuted and we can call on you. But the question on the table is, how are you feeling about the possibility of coming back, having your students come back to school in January? Thoughts, questions, concerns? I have one hand raised. Tisha, go ahead and you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have two kids, one in junior high and one in high school, and they are both usually very good academically, and both of them are struggling like crazy doing this online. Just mentally, they're just drained. There's long days. They're like, how do you sit in front of the computer all day? Yeah, just the more in-depth learning. I think they're learning like surface learning, but not really fully in-depth learning. So I'm definitely for, and I wish we would kind of start, like you're saying, smaller groups. If we could even just start that, of having some of the kids come back to school.
Yes, okay, thank you. And yeah, actually someone just chatted and was wondering if they could put their questions in chats as well. Yes, that's absolutely okay to do. I forgot that I had that enabled here today. Thank you, Tisha, for sharing that. So what I heard you say is that your kids are drained mentally from being online all day and they're struggling when they're typically strong students. So you're in favor of coming back. Thank you. Others? See, you have you're unmuted, Rhonda. Was that because you wanted to say something?
Yes, I'm sorry. I couldn't figure out how to do the hand raise thing.
That's okay. It worked. It worked.
I have twins in 7th grade there as well too. And I just want to agree with what the last person just said. One of them is usually a very high straight A student and now has a D in math and is really, really struggling. And we spend lots of time every day trying to make sure assignments are done. And he's been working with his teacher, but the learning environment, we are ready to go back. My kids are ready to go back. I definitely see some struggles that we have not encountered before with him.
Okay. And I will let you know, today we have heard about math concerns across the board from parents, from the teachers who are teaching the math, and from our kids as well for 7th and 8th grade. Our math teachers are rock stars. I love them more than anything in the world. They are working super, super hard, and it's too much. So today they're actually taking the day off. So if you have a 7th or an 8th grader, your children will be doing an independent assignment. They'll log in, we'll take attendance, and then they will leave. And they'll be doing an independent assignment like their test or something today, because I have our math teachers, Miss Yen, Miss Romero, and Mr. Punches. re-evaluating how they're doing math and resetting it so it's different coming next week. So we're going to try to slow it down some. We're going to try to reduce the amount of homework and make homework, turning in assignments simpler, because those are all things that we've heard that need to be shifted. So I see Mr. Spiritu's hand is raised, like physical hand is raised, and he's unmuted. Go ahead, and then we'll get to you, Karen, next.
Hi, Nanette. Thank you. And
Brian?
thank you for your time. My concern is that I am totally for bringing the kids back to school. I know that you know my kids very well, but we do tend to struggle a lot with having to keep them focused, right? Hours and hours on end on a computer doesn't help, number one. Number two, I'm just having some trouble, and my wife has this trouble also, where it doesn't seem that the kids are getting 360-degree feedback so that they have a quiz or something like that, right? And then, say, for example, on capitalization in 6th grade, my son is having this problem right now, and he's getting like, he usually doesn't have a problem in English, and he's getting like 10s of 14s and 7 out of 12s and 7 out of 20s. So I don't get it, right? And so just having that 360-degree feedback where you write it on a paper, on the quiz on your paper, and then you get it back, and then you're like, oh, okay, I don't know, here's what I went wrong, and here's what I got wrong, and they try to improve, right? But they're not getting it right now, or he's not getting it right now.
Is he able to go, does he have access to go back and look at the quiz for comments afterwards, or is it just removed at that point? Do you know the answer to that?
I've been looking on Aries, don't see it. I don't, and I basically asked him, I said, where are your quizzes? And because I'm on him almost every other day. And he's like, no, Dad, I don't have them. So I'm like, okay. So I just wanted to bring it up with you guys and figure out if there's any like 360-degree feedback that you can help the kids. Because
that should be happening, so we can definitely check into that. I've made a note of that. We're actually meeting with our teachers on Wednesday, and I'm going to ask them the same questions, and I'm going to share your feedback with them as well. So this will come up. So hopefully, if you're still having problems, I would encourage you and Joshua to go to one of the office hours and just check in with the teacher to see how you can get that information as well, if that continues to be a problem. But that is a big problem that I hear, that feedback loop is not closed in this virtual environment. So we'll thank you for that.
Thank you,
Erin,
Nanette.
Yeah. Erin, you're next.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I'd like to echo some of the sentiments that have already been expressed. My son is a visual learner, and he's having a terrible time keeping up with the homework. He did really well initially, then we evacuated, and he never got back on the train. So he's got F's, he's got D's, he's got an A in gym. That's the only thing that he's happy with right now. And, I can't motivate him to do it. He's not interested. I'm fearful. I'm very fearful. I want to get him back on the train, and I'm trying everything I can, but it's not working. So I'm a little freaked out here.
Yeah.
And
so Nanette, the comments are getting kind of long, but one I'm going to address like the last one. I believe that the math department's plan is they're going to be not adding extra homework, that I think one of their shifts is going to be whatever isn't finished in class becomes homework, rather than having to finish the classwork and do additional homework. Mrs. Romero had told me the other day that right now she's planning on just making what has been homework extra credit. They're planning on just trying to slow down the pace, make it more doable. A couple of comments in the chat were some of their students are doing well academically, but struggling with the social isolation. And then there was also a question about following CDC protocols for when we come back. And that's an absolute. We will follow the CDC protocols and county directives regarding how we're going to have our students on campus. And that's also, a lot is to be determined if they're going, what the population density can be at school, basically. So if we're going to be cohorted or even smaller than half.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be determined by our district, that piece right there. But for sure, if we return in January, which I think it's a big if, I think there's just a lot of stars that have to align in order for that to really be a true reality. It would be at most in a hybrid type setting, to the best of my knowledge. Now, remember, things change every single day. So I could say that today and something else could shift tomorrow. But as of my thinking right now, I don't see any way that we could be returning fully in January. There would probably be less academic time because we'd be spending more time, and we wouldn't go back to the full long days at this point. Probably keep this modified shorter day. We would very likely have to spend some of that time taking temperatures and doing hand washing. So the classes would likely be shorter in person than they are right now. There's a lot of factors. We would absolutely have to and plan on adhering to all CDC guidelines and recommendations from Santa Clara County really is where we're going, because I think those tend to be a little bit more stringent than the CDC guidelines. And so we would absolutely be adhering to all of those pieces if and when we return. Monday schedule, it seems to be, what about Monday schedule? Will these be returned? I missed that because it just bounced out of my, right. The Monday schedule, will these be adjusted? The day seems to be too much. I don't have details around that. I don't know the answer to that, because if we decide, a decision is made to go back, then we have to look at our schedule and determine whether or not we want to stay in this block schedule, or if we're going to go to more of like a schedule how we've had in the past. I'm guessing we'd probably keep the same schedule for the rest. That's my guess for this piece. But a lot of things have to be taken into consideration. Are students allowed to move from one class to the other? Are they with other cohorts? So there's a lot of things logistically that would have to be considered in order to work at a middle school or a high school. In addition to that, the flu season and all of the other pieces that go into what winter's going to look like. So those are just all questions that we still have. Nancy, are you keeping up on the chat? I see some.
Yeah, there was
about math.
One common theme is just the social impact of students with not being at school, in addition to it being hard with the academics and accessing online. And so once there was a comment about sports and with PE, so it would be awesome if we could get the kids back when we do, that there would be some actual PE happening. Hopefully the weather cooperates and get some of that energy burned off. Teresa has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Teresa.
So my daughter's actually not doing so bad in her classes, but she's having a hard time. Like, she doesn't feel connected to her teachers. She feels like she can't go to them and like tell them she has a problem. And I think that's really because they're not in person, and she, it's sending them an email rather than going and talking to them. So like she had a big problem at the beginning of the semester where the teacher didn't explain that tests at home are open book. So she failed a test until I explained to her that quizzes at home are open book. You need to talk to your teacher. And she was able to retake it, but like things like that keep happening because she can't, raise her hand and ask her teacher a question because there's, too many kids and not enough time.
So Nanette, we got another comment also that kind of echoes this from Jordan, and that's that. And this is, so for me, it's like, because Nanette and I were just talking before this meeting about the homework help, So under typical circumstances, we have teachers in the library helping students 4 days a week on any homework they need help on. And virtually, when we kicked it off, we've gotten 2 students at the most coming for homework help. And so I was thinking, oh, okay, then the kids are going to office hours. So now that's telling me now we still got a problem here. I'm wondering maybe if we have teachers pull their classes in during office hours for like 10 minutes. What our struggle here is just how, so it's not blaming the teachers or the kids, it's just we're asking the students to access the new system. And as I said on our staff announcements, was something I encountered in college, certainly not as a 6th grader, to have to go in and ask for help when you need it because the teacher's not sitting there in front of you. So this, if anyone has any ideas how we could get our students in a situation where they're comfortable to access the office hours or come to homework help. Any suggestions, I would love to have them.
So yes, go ahead, Jordan.
Well, I really don't know, I have no idea if this is practical or possible, because what I find is that my son, they're tired. They're so tired by the end of the day, by the time they would go to ask for help. They've spent all this time on the screens. I wonder if there would be a way to build it into each class. Like, okay, you've done your work. Is there a 10-minute window? Does anyone have any questions? Maybe that's not enough. I don't know. And I really sympathize with what the teachers must be doing big time. Like, everyone's struggling. It's not, but I don't know. So I'm just throwing it out there.
I think you're right, Jordan. I have never seen teachers work harder than I'm seeing right now, and I've never been more worried for them and their exhaustion levels than I am right now, and that goes for our students too. This is and our parents, right? This is extremely emotional and hard for us, and there's no magic wand. So when you give us some good suggestions, it helps us because I'm only as good as my brain is right here, and we get better when we work together on trying to ease the burden, shift it for our kids and our teachers right now as well. So thank you. I am getting some comments as well. Okay, so one person said they joined late. Are we returning in January? The answer is no, we're not returning in January. That is the earliest we can consider returning. So the district will consider it starting in January. I think it's unlikely. I think I'm managing my hope and expectations because just the way that this virus has gone, we have to be very conservative with how we bring people back. And there have been a lot of documented cases where kids come back to school and then the virus explodes in different states that have done it. So I too want our kids back on campus. I truly hear you with how scary it is when you see your kids not doing well emotionally or academically. And then also we have to make sure we're taking the precautions and we're approaching this safely because of this crazy world we're in, the pandemic. So I do have a couple comments to me personally saying, please make sure that we as a district are approaching this conservatively. I assure you we are. And also, I can also assure you that our district is very seriously invested in making sure we move forward appropriately with this. I don't think anyone at the district office is cavalier or not like, oh, we're going to do it this way. There is just, every conversation we have is, how can we do this? What do our parents think? What does our community think? What are your thoughts? So there's a lot of like angst and worry and concern and empathy and all of those things wrapped up in every level of the decisions that are being made. So you might not see it on the outside, but being in this inside, we are part of those conversations daily. Nancy, did you?
Nikki has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. Nikki, go ahead.
So yeah, I have a question. So my daughter in her math class, she's been told she has 5 days to turn things in that are late or missing, but we're not getting the paperwork back till the end of the week. So after 5 days, she can't turn it in. So how's she supposed to turn it in if she doesn't know it's messed up or missing?
Good question. Has your daughter, well, number one, things are shifting, right? Like we said, math department is meeting today, so your kids won't actually see their math teachers today. They'll be doing independent work. They'll log in, attendance will be taken. This is for 7th and 8th grade. But the teachers are working today to revamp the math to make it more accessible to kids and more reasonable in the expectations, because we're finding it's a little bit too much. Nikki, I would encourage, I think that's a good question in general that we can bring up to them, but specific to getting answers for you, I would encourage you to set up an appointment with one of the teachers.
I have talked to the teacher, and that was what she said. She said, your kid has 5 days to return her paperwork if it's not turned in. Okay, well, I'm not getting the grades till the end of the week. That's past 5 days. How am I supposed to make sure she turns it in after 5 days?
And did she have an answer?
No, because that was her answer, because that's what's the problem. My daughter wasn't getting her stuff in, so I called her, I talked to her. She said, okay, well, just make sure it's turned in after 5 days or before the end of the 5-day period. Okay, well, she graded the paperwork on Friday. It was due on Monday. So unless she does now more work on Friday to turn it in, now it's late and she can't turn it in.
Okay, so we're with this meeting, Nancy and I are actually jumping into the math meeting, so we can bring that up as a kind of like, so what are we going to do about that kind of question moving forward? So thank you for bringing that up as a concern. Do we have another hand that was raised a minute ago?
Oh yeah, hi.
Hi, Sophia.
So do you remember last year there was a separate class that we had, the kids had, that was on like teaching them study skills and this and that. What was that called?
It was called advisory. Yep, that's right.
Advisory. So I don't think that you're like working that in to the schedule, the daily schedule this year, but I mean, that would be a good way to, get these little things like teaching the kids to self-advocate. If a child does have, is hesitant to contact their teacher, like I'm seeing that many kids have this issue, the communication issue. So perhaps have an advisory type session where then the kids learn how to do all of this, how to navigate all of this a little better, so they feel a little better about getting it done, that they're able to get it done and they're being listened to as well.
Yeah, and so what I have not shared with you, and thank you for bringing it up. I'm sorry, this definitely passed. I should have communicated this with you and haven't. So thank you for bringing this up. Good segue. We have just, so this year our teachers have voted not to have a separate class for advisory like we had last year. Teachers felt like they weren't able to connect enough with their advisory students because they only saw them once a week, and that was just really hard for the kids and for them. So what they wanted to do instead is embed it into their day in one of the classes. So what we're doing right now, and we started last week, so you're probably seeing a slow rollout, or maybe you haven't seen the slow rollout yet. During our homeroom classes, which start at 9:15, every child needs to be at school at 9:15 on Tuesdays through Fridays. During 2 of those, we are pushing out those lessons. So we're calling it Second Step this year because we're using a program that works on self-advocacy and all those other things. But the program we're using is called Second Step. So the kids it may have been referred to like that from the teachers, but those lessons are being pushed out. We're splitting them into 2 days because they're about 25-minute lessons. And so we're doing them between 2 different days in their first period, in their Wednesday, Friday classes is when they should be going through those. On Tuesdays, Nancy and I are pushing out admin announcements to the kids. And then I'm also posting those on Facebook for the Tuesdays. So if you want to see us being goofy together, then you certainly can watch those, or you can skip them, whatever. And then on Thursdays, our leadership team is pushing out BTV or Britain TV announcements during that homeroom. So Wednesdays and Fridays are really when we're going to be focusing on that. But I will share with our teachers that self-advocacy really is one of those areas that our parents are requesting some more lessons in. So thank you. I'm wondering if we got all the questions in the chat. If we didn't get your question in the chat, Nancy, oh, I just saw we had 10 more. Are there more that we need to jump into? just comments at this point?
It's mostly been comments.
There will, of course, be an option should we go back to school. There will, our board has committed to the fact that we will have the option to have your child fully at home for the rest of the school year. So if you have compromised health at home, both either a parent, a grandparent, or a child, you will have that option should the district decide to bring kids back to the campus.
There is one comment about teachers having things in areas that aren't getting graded. Sometimes it depends on the assignment. Teachers put things in areas so that parents can see that something was due, but they haven't graded it yet. And this is kind of like the chicken or the egg. If it's in areas, then at least you know something was due, but if they wait until it's graded, it might take them a while to get through the 170 that they're grading. So things like anything with a written response is going to take longer. So that entering it in areas is more of a courtesy for parents so they see that something was due rather than a promise it's due and it's graded now. Some things just take a lot longer to grade. And the homework last year was driving teachers over the edge because there were no due dates and they were getting it in all different formats. So people were spending probably literally 30 hours a week just trying to keep up on the grading because everything was so disjointed. So that's also why they're spending a lot of time not having just turn it in before the end of the quarter because they literally could not keep up and they were trying incredibly hard.
So Nikki, I will address your concern also, but I am going to say that if you would like to see whether or not your child has turned in their work, you have to go in. It's kind of funky. I wish that was different for our parents' view for Google Classroom, but it's not yet. So you have to go in as your child into the Google Classroom and ask your child to show you where they've turned in their assignments, and you'll see a list on whether or not it's been turned in. Kids like to turn in blank documents because then it shows it's been turned in, but then you get a 0 and you're like, I turned it in, and then parents get upset about it. But what I learned, because I was that parent, is that I actually had to have my child open up their assignments to see that they actually had work on them. So when it's turned in that way. Now, in math, our math teachers have been struggling tremendously to get things graded in an appropriate amount of time. So they recognize this I expect to shift when we get back next week. It should get a little bit easier. Like we said before, I think there's an agreement that we're going to be stopping homework for math. So there's going to be no separate homework. It will be classwork, and whatever classwork is not completed will be their homework that they need to finish. So there will be some shifts in how math is doing it. We're hoping that allows our teachers who typically are on top of it and actually really still are on top of it. It's just taking them so much longer. It'll give them an opportunity to grade and submit their grades in a more reasonable amount of time than they're able to right now. It'll reduce that stress we're hearing from the kids and the families regarding math and the level and intensity of work and on how to turn things in. Let's see. Yes, Brian, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Hi, Nanette, again. So thank you again, but now I'm driving. Anyway, so here's the case too, is that I don't know if there's any other feedback loop that you guys can use in terms of trying to get the parents involved. And I echo the same concern from one of the parents also, where 5 days, 7 days late, right? It's kind of unacceptable. And then we get a shot over the bow saying, oh, it's late, or that's number one. Number two is that the grading system, right? So if there's a grade to it, is there like a benchmark or something that anything below a B or a C or something like that, so that we're able to nip it in the butt pretty quickly, right? This has been going on for like 3 weeks now, and I'm like asking Joshua what's going on. He's like, I'm turning it in, and or the quizzes. He says, I'm doing the best I can. I go, well, for capitalization, 3 weeks in a row, best you can. That's not good enough. So that's my comment is that is there a system in place, or can we get a system in place to get the parents involved early so that we can nip it fairly early in the process before it gets too late?
Okay, so what I think I hear you saying, Brian, and please correct me if I'm misunderstanding you, is that you would like some sort of notification system that goes out to parents. If, number one, you want the grades in a reasonable amount of time so you as a parent can help support from home. Number two, you would like some sort of a system in place that notifies parents when there's like warning bells, like my child has a D in this class kind of a thing, and an email or something goes out automatically. Is that what I hear you saying?
Absolutely. That's
okay.
Absolutely what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so I just asked Sherry, she is a magician registrar. She's the best. And she said that right now, and I'm going to push this a little bit more on my end to see if there's a different answer that I can get. But right now, in order for you to get information pushed to you through Aries, you have to go in as a parent and set preferences so you get weekly or daily updates from Aries. I asked her just before this meeting if she could email, when she emails you out or put it in the newsletter, on how to set that up so you can make sure you're getting those daily or weeklies through the Aries. I will see if there's a system that can kind of trigger, like a letter grade triggers an email that can be sent out. I'll see if that's something I can do on my side, but the hack right now is for you to set it up on. But I like your idea.
And I think Nikki's point is something I'd been talking about before, and I agree that all of a sudden grades get put in and surprise, your kid's not doing as well as the student or the parent thought. I'm wondering if it would be useful for parents if teachers had in one place the solutions to the homework or the quizzes so that the student and the parent could review the work. That might help Brian. Like if his student doesn't understand what's going on in the capitalization, if there were answer keys or some way to go back.
So check, one question was, is there tutoring help for math? The answer is yes. I just put it in the chat. 6th grade, we have it 4 days a week right now after school. It's in the Google Classroom for your grade level. So your 6th grade student would look in the 6th grade Google Classroom to see the links and when they are available. If you have a 7th or 8th grader, we have tutoring help on Wednesdays after school, but with Mr. Punches. And you can check into the Google Classroom for 7th or 8th grade. And all students have been invited to it. So if they haven't, all of them have accepted that invite. So they can go to the Google Classroom, google.classroom.com or whatever that website is, and click open their Google Classroom for that. So, so that is one way. If you need extra support than that, the kids need to be making office hour appointments because teachers are working during office hours. So they can and should be available to help students during that time.
And Tuesday, Thursday homework lab, Julie, Laura can also help with the math. And that's after school on Tuesdays, Thursdays. Whoops, got someone in the waiting.
Nikki, I hear what you're saying. And if you would like to have a deeper conversation about this offline, I would be more than happy to set up a Zoom meeting with you so we can just kind of hash through some of the details of what's going on. But I do hear what you're saying, that you need the information, otherwise you can't help us, right? It is a loop that I'm hearing that loop needs to be closed, and there's some openings right now that I appreciate you sharing with me because that helps us make it better here. Sarah.
There we go. Then mute myself. Thank you for meeting with us this morning. I want to echo what everyone else has said, that distance learning is so hard. And I feel like both of my kids have lost their passion for school. They've always loved school and they hate it now. It's a battle and it's hard. My question really is in regard to games. Is it possible to change? I'm guessing that's kind of an elective. Is it possible to change that?
You were just a little muted. I have a feeling you're on your phone and your thumb is over your speaker. So I heard you say something about changing something about an elective, but I didn't hear what specifically.
Oh, sorry. So Grace is in band
Mhm.
and she is wanting to change. Is that an option? She's really frustrated. She only got her instrument 2 weeks ago. They've had 5 assignments for the whole year. 2 of them she turned in late, but nothing has been graded since September 10th. So she has a 65% in band when she only got her instrument 2 weeks ago. And that's just really frustrating. And she's not really wanting to be in band anymore because they can't practice. It's not really happening. Band isn't happening.
I'm taking notes as you're speaking.
Okay.
Okay, number one, those are information like that is important to know. Have you or Grace had a chance to speak to the band teacher about?
We've emailed twice and not gotten a response.
Okay.
Yeah, she normally loves band, and we love Mr. Loxton. I know you've got.
Yeah.
I love all of our teachers. Honestly, they're doing a tremendous job.
Right.
So
I'm going to tell you, Sarah, typically my answer is no. We don't have a lot of wiggle room in our schedules to shift like mass amounts of kids around, especially now that we've paired our math and our PE together. It really complicates schedules. I would like to talk to you more offline about your concerns in that area. So if you could just shoot me an email with some times you're free, and then I'll set you a link and we can talk a little bit more in depth about some of the concerns. I'd like to hear a little bit more about it, but probably on a one-on-one setting. That would be great for me. Thank you. I saw a hand raised. Was it Candace or were you just scratching your head? Okay. Wasn't sure. And Martine Ramirez, I see that you're unmuted. Did you want to say something or are you just listening? Maybe just listening. And then I think we have maybe about 4 or 5 more minutes for questions, and then I'd like to turn it over to our Home and School Club members. And I heard another person echoing the band concern. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, worries, positive things that you see going on that I can share with the teachers?
Nanette, just wanted to give you guys a shout out though in terms of your staff and what they've been doing over the past 4 or 5 months, including the teachers at Walsh, right? This whole long distance learning thing, I wasn't cut out to be a teacher, but I guess now I'm a part-time teacher, right? And so that's why I'm in tech. But I really do thank you for your guys' effort. But and I think at this point in time, we just need to refine the process so that the kids can get the most out of their long distance learning, right? Hopefully they get to school soon, and then this whole thing can be over with, right? But again, commendation and compliments to the staff.
Thank you. I'll pass it along.
I wanted to say though that my daughter has Miss Parker and she has been amazing. Like anytime she's had an issue, she's super fast at responding. And she's also been really good at responding to my emails, although I try not to email much because now I'm like, she's in 6th grade. She should be doing this herself. But she's the only one of my daughter's teachers that she really feels a connection to. And I feel like she's really gone over and above. And I really appreciate that.
We'll definitely pass it along. Thank you for sharing. What was one? I'm sorry, I was reading the comments to see if there's anything specific to that. So thank you very much for that feedback. I appreciate it. And that connection is what I'm hearing is missing. I actually think that lack of connection is what's the driving force behind so much of the sadness and the worry that we're all feeling. It's very hard to connect digitally. We have a couple clubs that we're pushing out. So please have your child look in the Google Classroom to see if there's any of the clubs that they'd like to join. That's a way to do it. I hear there's this whole Among Us thing. My daughter's obsessed with it. I'm afraid to look at what it actually is. But apparently a lot of kids this age, it's the newest game that kids are playing together. So we're looking at ways to incorporate games like that, having clubs where the kids can get together and do things virtually. Since small groups are now allowed to come on campus at some level per the board, I don't know what that looks like, and we have to find the details around that. I'm going to start asking, are there small groups of clubs that could meet in person after school, so we can maybe build a little bit more connection. Once we have information on that, we'll start pushing that out to you as well, so you have more information in that way. But I really hear you that the connection is missing. I'm missing it too. What drives me every day is that connection with the kids. I like that behavior management piece, that checking in with kids piece, and as an adult, I'm struggling with that also. So if I'm struggling with it, our kids must really, really be struggling. So I hear you. I would say the last thing that I'd like to do is share some time with our home and school club, because so they can introduce themselves and share out anything they'd like to share out. I know that a survey just recently went out. So go ahead, I'll pass it on to Teresa Peschke and Jordan Rosenfeld. And I think Sophia is here too, probably not with her face shown right now. Oh, there she is. Take it over, ladies.
Hi everyone, I'm Teresa. So sorry, one second, just moving my stuff around so I can see my agenda and the thing. So the first thing that we need to do is go over election of officers. So I'm sure a lot of you guys saw that the election was done over email this year because we haven't been able to meet in person. So Mrs. Donahue had sent out a Google form, and as far as I know, because she's the one who has the access to that, I was elected as president, Sophia was elected as treasurer, and Jordan was elected as secretary. If anybody is interested in running for vice president, please let us know. Oh, see, there you go. There's the responses. So if anyone's interested in running for vice president, please let us know. We don't have anybody in that position, so it's open and we can take nominations at any meeting for that. So yeah, so if you're interested in that, let us know. I will, and then, so for new business, we are working on some fundraising. Middle school is not the same as in elementary school. I'm sure all of you guys remember the, millions of fundraisers that we did in elementary school and all of the things that the home and school clubs pay for in elementary school. It's not the same in middle school. There's not as much that we pay for. So what we are working on right now is we are working on, we're going to do some dinner nights out, which once we have those scheduled, the office will push out information for that. We'll send flyers. We are going to we would like to work with ASB about having a contest where the students can design spiritware, and then they'll vote on which ones are the winners, and we'll add those to the spiritware that we already sell. As of right now, you can buy your spiritware through the Home and School Club store on the Facebook page. We're looking into seeing if maybe we can have, like a once a month pickup at the school where we will, you can drive up and pick up your spiritware that you order. We will have more information about that soon. Hopefully, we need to talk to the woman who does our shirts, and we need to work it out with the office and figure out what we're allowed to do for the district. if anybody would like to volunteer, we could definitely use help, you know, with fundraising and any other things. We don't have as much to do this year because we're virtual. Once we're back in school or on campus, well, there will be more that needs to be done. You know, we'll need help at if we're allowed to reopen the lounge, things like that. We'll need help, definitely. Because the parent needs to be in the lounge whenever it's open. So if you are interested in helping, the form that's being sent out by the office about meeting dates and times also you can put your email in, and you can say that you're interested in helping with, there's a place where you can add that you're interested in helping with volunteering, however you want to. Sorry. And then
Questions is, what is the
we are
role of a
working-
vice president, Teresa? Do you know what the role of the vice president for Home and School Club would be? I got that as a question.
Yes. Sorry, hold on one second. Let me pull that up. Sorry, I have to get into our the HSA Google Drive so I can pull up our bylaws so I can read it, because I don't want to get any of it wrong, you know?
I would say the gist of it, without the details, the gist of it is you're there to back up and take over if Teresa is unable to do her job as president. You are kind of the executive council, helping make decisions and helping plan and different things.
So the four members of the board, the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, they all we meet, you know, once a month to kind of discuss some things, but also the four of us are on the Home and School Club bank account. We make sure that any bills get paid. We can, you know, make like decisions on small amounts of things, like things that need to get paid, like when the Home and School Club helps the ASB pay for agendas, things like that. So yeah, and then the vice president is also in charge of volunteers. So they are the person who is in charge of the volunteer list, who, you know, contacts people who are, you know, who want to be involved. So yeah, that's basically what the vice president does. So yeah, we are working on a Home and School Club website. There'll be a link on the Britain website. One of our 8th grade parents, Denise Van Sinderen, has volunteered, and she is putting together the website for us. So it probably will be a couple months before that's up and running, but hopefully once that's up and running, then it'll be easier for parents to be involved. You guys will be able to see everything that we have to be involved with. So yeah, the other thing that we need to talk about is, apparently last year the Home and School Club bylaws were read once, but they weren't approved. Because we're in this virtual format, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send the bylaws to Principal Donahue so that they can be sent out. And then next meeting, we'll do a vote on approving them. From talking to past members of the board, nothing was changed, but I guess every 2 years, the bylaws need to be gone over. And so I'm going to send those to Principal Donahue so that if anybody, has questions or things you want to add, definitely feel free to, make notes. And then at our next meeting, we'll discuss what needs to happen with that. Does anybody have any questions?
Teresa, we were also going to talk about the meeting times and ask.
Oh,
that's
is that
going to be in the survey.
Yeah, that's in the survey that Miss Donahue is sending out. It has basically, it asks what days are best for people, morning, afternoon, evening timeframes. Obviously, we can't get every single person, but we want to try to get as many people as we can to come to our meetings and be involved. We really can't do any social events until we're back on campus and the district says so. So I think and most of the social event stuff goes through ASB, not Home and School Club. So
the other thing I'd like to point out is that I did get notification that our parent coffees were so popular that the elementary school started doing them. That's how I'll think of it in my own head, but I'm sure that they all had a great idea as I did. So we've, for the last 3 years, have been doing our parent coffees the last Friday of the month. Sounds like our elementary schools have jumped on board. And if you have more than one child, then you probably have to pick who your favorite kid is and then go to that parent coffee. So we are going to shift our parent coffees and we're going to tag them onto Home and School Club meetings as long as it's an appropriate time where parents can meet, which I assume it would be because that's what Home and School Club is. So we will shift these parent coffees to different times to accommodate families who have elementary school kids and middle school kids. So that communication will go out. Teresa, I'm thinking you can have a Home and School Club corner in our new newsletter that goes out each week, which means you just need to email Sandra Ozuna and Alba Garay your information and links that you want to go out, and it'll get pushed out on our newsletters as well. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to volunteer, let us know. Right now, Jordan, Sophia, and I are just kind of trying to clean up records. Sophia is working on cleaning up the financial records. When everything kind of shut down at the end of last year, not a lot got done. There were no Home and School Club meetings. So she's doing a great job on getting that all caught up and fixed. And yeah, if there aren't any other questions, then that's really all we had. So yeah.
We still need your help though. So we'd love to have you.
Yes.
If you're interested, even just hanging out and chatting with us.
Yeah, and I'm thinking actually at some point you guys will want to send out an email collecting email addresses so you can get your group that goes through. So you can just email them directly and not have to go through us for the basics. Not that we're more than happy to help though with what you need. One of the questions that I just received on chat was, when is this recording going to be available? Because you missed a portion of it. As soon as you guys are done, as soon as we're done and I end it, it takes a little while for it to upload. And then I just need to crop the front part off because I think I was on about 5 minutes before you were. I'll upload it to YouTube and we will push out the link today during our newsletter. So the newsletter that goes out today will have a link to this because what's better than watching a parent coffee twice, right? So, and it'll also be out there for parents who may have not had access to this morning's meeting, so they can jump through and see different parts that they might want to.
Yeah. And I will send. I'll add my email to the Home and School Club corner in the newsletter, so anyone who's interested, you can email me and let me know, and we will find something for you to do.
I want to thank you all for taking time and sharing your raw and true experiences so far to this point. My heart breaks hearing your stories because I know they're out there. Our teachers are feeling it, we're feeling it, and you and your kids are too. We will do better, and we will continue to get better, and we will continue to work on closing those loops those communication loops that are missing right now. And your feedback, even though it's hard to hear, is really, really important for me to hear so we can get better and continue to support your children at a different level. So thank you for being willing to share that out with me today. I appreciate it. I took lots of notes, and we'll be talking to our teachers on Wednesday. And thank you so much for being here. We are at 10 o'clock time, so I know that you guys need to log off. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am in front of my screen like 10 hours a day these days, so I do see emails come through. If we need to set up a meeting, I encourage you to reach out to your teachers before you reach out to me. They always appreciate that courtesy. Unless it's an emergency or something really serious, then I always love to jump in and help support when that happens. Looking forward to seeing you again at the next Parent Coffee. We'll push out that time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.